discussion, but we are not going about that way, right? Okay. Yeah, before we begin, Ramadan reminder. I want one of you to share something which is working very well for you, very quickly, because we run out of time very quickly. You know, something that you guys are doing and it's really working well for you, and would you like, if you want to share it? You know, you feel, yeah, go ahead. Working well in terms of it's kind of, you know, working for you.
Okay, for in terms of rosa, I have an elaichi just before like complete my study, and I feel like hydrated somehow. I don't.
Oh, that's an amazing tip. Gohar is saying that she has an elaichi, cardamom, for those of you who don't know what elaichi means, at Sehri time. And that keeps her hydrated throughout the day. Subhanallah. That's a great tip. Alhamdulillah. That's wonderful. Anything that you guys are doing in terms of your spirituality that you feel is working for you, Ji, Sarah?
So I had planned my whole thing, all my.
I'm going to repeat what you're saying. You had planned all your stuff?
That I wanted to do during Ramadan.
Yes.
I prayed a lot before Ramadan.
Uh-huh.
Please make sure that I do all my classes.
All right.
Because I have one in the morning, then I have one in the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I have quests going along with that.
Right.
See, I take recordings and do my homework with that as well.
Uh-huh.
And then I have Tarawih. So it's a lot kind of going on. And
right.
I prayed a lot that please Allah make that happen. And Alhamdulillah, I have been on top of that till now.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Sarah is doing quite a bit during the day as well as in the evening. And she did special prayers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Rabbi, make my time management actually happen. And that is working. So Alhamdulillah, when people talk about time management, it's not just something random, but something that actually works. Okay. Now, you guys on Zoom, would you like to share something? Because I feel I've been ignoring and neglecting you guys too much. Yeah. Any tip that is working for you? Anything that you have been doing these past days that has worked for you in terms of your time management or in terms of increasing your spirituality? Please do share. And quickly. Yeah, sorry. Okay, who has raised their hands? Fariha. Okay, Fariha, I'm going to unmute you and then you go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Something
that has worked for me is connecting through the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm reading a book called Tere Naam Teri Pehchan by Sajda Naheed. And I take Allah's name.
Sorry, Fariha, can you just repeat yourself? Because बीच में आपकी आवाज बिल्कुल कट गई. You mentioned a book that you're reading.
Right. Something that is working for me is connecting to the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm
something
reading a
that
book
is connecting with you is going through the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah,
right.
Great idea.
And so I take each name and then I see how can I have, like, how does that connect to me? If Allah is As-Sami, He is hearing all my problems. And, you know, and how is He, if He's Al-Basir, He's also seeing, and He's Al-Alim. So He's, you know, He knows everything about me. And so that connection, and then I write a gratitude list of, Alhamdulillah, how this has all Allah's name has helped me. And so this kind of gratitude list.
Pause for one second. So she's looking at various different names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sees how that connects with her. And then she actually writes down whatever she sort of gets from each name, say As-Sami, Al-Alim, and then that gratitude that she feels, and then you write that down, right, Fariha?
That's it. Jazakallah.
Alhamdulillah, that's fantastic. Jazakallah khairan katheer for sharing that, because yes, actually names of Allah are the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How else do you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And Alhamdulillah, we got an opportunity to talk about a few names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during our sessions. And if we come to that ayat, inshallah, we'll talk about Al-Qahhar as well today. Okay, Jazakallah khairan katheer everyone for sharing. Inna alhamdulillah. يا ربي لك الحمد حتى ترضى ولك الحمد إذا ما رضيت ولك الحمد بعد رضا ولك الحمد على كل حال اللهم لك الحمد حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا الحمد لله الذي نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي آمين يا رب العالمين يا غفور رحيم يا أرحم الراحمين يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. So what was going on in the ayat that we did was that the lady of the house is seducing Yusuf alayhi salam, right? And she calls him to her, and then he seeks refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And basically he just refuses, no thank you. And then in ayah number 25, we found out that what happens now, right? So they race towards the door, right? وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابَ, right? The two of them race towards the door. So both of them are racing. Yeah. What this means is that when Yusuf alayhi salam said no, so he must have turned around to leave. Again, as we have said over and over again, that the Quran does not provide details where it is not necessary to provide details, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only tells us what we need to know, right? Just by saying that they race towards the door, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is painting a complete picture actually. Yeah. And remember, وَغَلَّتَ الْأَبْوَابِ, that they are locked, the doors are locked. So Yusuf alayhi salam stands up to race out, and what scholars say is that not only is he physically fleeing, but he is spiritually fleeing as well from this severe fitna. Physically he's running towards the door, but he's also, the inside of him, he's fleeing from sin and fahash and severe temptation. So literally, physically and spiritually, he's fleeing from evil. That's a very important point over here. And both of them are physically doing the same action, but one is doing to flee towards sin, and the other is doing the running to flee away from sin. So scholars say that a lot of times when we see a group of people, just by looking at their physical action, we cannot tell what is going on inside of their hearts. That only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. You know, that only Allah subhanahu. If you look at the physical action, both of them are doing the same thing. They're running towards the door. But absolutely two different niyas, two different perspectives, two different worldviews, two different understanding of God, two different spiritualities or whatever, right? So that's important. And what scholars say is that it is not for you and me to judge what is in another person's heart, right? And we're talking about actions which are benign this way, like this running action. We're talking about that. There's many actions which are very clearly either sinful or not sinful. That's a different story altogether over here, right? Just to clarify that. Acha. Then in the process of this running, Yusuf alayhi salam's shirt gets torn, right? No, hang on. Yeah. She ripped his shirt from behind. The shirt is torn. So he's fleeing and she kind of grabs him. So his shirt tears, right? And not only that, but what scholars say is in his eagerness to dart out, he must have sort of forcefully probably forced himself. That's the reason that the shirt tore or whatever. But surprisingly, the master has returned home, right? So when they kind of, obviously he must have unbolted the door because it was bolted. And he opens the door and she's right behind him. She's right there because she's following him, trying to grab him back. And her husband is standing there. Can we imagine, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that, always, always, always. But imagine that scenario, putting yourself in that situation. Na'udhu billah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. But, imagine that scenario, right? And this is about any culture, any society, any religion, anyone, just people who are married, two married people, the husband comes home and the wife is with another man, basically. So what would the reaction be? Of the wife as well as the husband? Husband should be really shocked, angered, enraged. And wife? Sorry? Wife scared. And what else? Embarrassed, at least embarrassed, right? If not scared, then at least embarrassed. Husband's automatic reaction at that point would be to blame the other guy. Acha, so the husband's reaction could be that he blames the other guy, that he's come after, he's taking advantage of the situation and trying to do. Acha, okay, chalo, theek hai. If that's what you think, but immediate reaction, like, that knee-jerk reaction, this all comes later, na? The situation is that you open the door and your wife is with another man. That is the situation. Us waqt ye ki he came and did that and she did that all doesn't come immediately, right? Okay, let's put it this way, certain situations that you and I might have been in, right? So you catch your child red-handed doing some hanky-panky, whatever, say smoking, chalo. So what is your knee-jerk reaction? I'm talking about immediate knee-jerk reaction. Gussa to aata hi hai na, of course, that's, you do get angry. That's what I'm trying to say over here. You do get angry. Then you rationalize it later that no, maybe he or she was just experimenting and I'll sit them down and we'll have a chat. All of that comes much later, doesn't it? Do we have that kind of sabr of Yaqub alayhi salam that we would stop ourselves from smacking them straight out? Generally speaking, if you find yourself in a position of shock and horror, the shock and horror at least shows on your face. At least, right? You shout or what, there is some very serious kind of an extreme kind of a reaction, because this is a very extreme situation. This is not something casual, right? This is not something which happens every day, right? And then see what happens. What she did was that she immediately, he didn't say anything, Yusuf alayhi salam didn't say anything. Both the guys are quiet. There are two men and one woman in this situation. She immediately says, what could be the punishment of him who intended evil with your wife? Except that he be imprisoned or given a painful punishment like chastisement, right? So she had that, what scholars say is that she had that presence of mind, number one, and then this cunning that she immediately came up with something like, the thing that, what do you say? Yani obviously blaming the other guy. Blaming, wallahu alam, whether she was prepared or not. But the thing is, how could she be prepared for the husband walking in? She was prepared for the seduction, most certainly. We talked about that in detail yesterday. But how is somebody going to be like, okay, so what am I going to do if Janu walks in? It's like that, right? No, what scholars say is that temptation and this urge, particularly a sexual urge, is so strong that it makes your mind cunning at another level, which you generally wouldn't be, right? And we will see later on, perhaps generally she was not a wicked and cunning woman at all, but she had let her, the lower nafs take over to such an extent that, she would do anything, go to any extent, right? If anybody can go to the extent of seducing your slave, right? So you can imagine how the mind is working in a very wicked and, like a shaitani mind almost, right? So it was amazing that she just immediately, she says, okay, it's him, right? Totally. And immediately, she had that presence of mind. She didn't, a regular person, right? A regular person would be at least, a little flustered, or I don't know, try to make some kind of an excuse or something, right? We know from experience with our kids, say, for example, there's no comparison here, but just to understand a little bit, when we look at our own personal situations, that we know that kids, alhamdulillah, Allah ka ihsan, that if a kid is not really cunning or something and you catch them, whether it's smoking, whether it's any other thing, watching porn or God knows what, something. So they automatically become like, they crumble almost. They crumble almost. And the ones who are not either reprimanded or have been through the process so many times that they've become a bit thick-skinned and all, they are the ones who look for these excuses. It happens. It actually does happen. So she is the one who is saying that, this is the situation over here, right? So the lady chases Yusuf alayhi salam, grabbing his shirt and tearing it from behind. Door opens, and there you are, the master of the house is there. Faced with whatever embarrassment she may have had in her heart, she lies outright and accuses Yusuf alayhi salam of evil intention towards her, right? But if you look at this, she's saying, Sue, okay, okay. She's saying that he has some evil intention. She's not specific. She's not saying he's trying to rape me. You understand that? She's not saying that, and that is important for later on, right? So according to that Sufi interpretation, this ayat is replete with signs. The qalb runs to the door to escape the cunning of the nafs, right? It is reaching out for an open space where it can breathe, where there is some respite, right? And the nafs is not letting go of the qalb. This is an internal struggle that you and I have every day of our lives sometimes about something or the other. It may not be this kind of temptation, but it could be something or the other, right? It attacks from behind. The nafs attacks the qalb from behind, away from the side where eyes cannot see it. It pursues its intended target with violent passion, yeah, clawing its nails from behind. Alerted by this struggle between the qalb and the nafs, the master of the house, who they say the mind, enters. Right? This is between the nafs and the qalb, and now the mind enters. And confronted with this, with its evil intentions, the nafs fabricates a complete lie. It accuses the heart of evil intentions and demands that the heart should be imprisoned. Yeah, because that's the least that you can do, right? So she invents this and she says that, this is what's going on. And then we see in ayah number 26 that Yusuf alayhi salam in this situation does not remain silent. Yusuf alayhi salam immediately after she says this defends himself, right? He said, it was she who tried to seduce me, right? And he specifies the charge against her. He didn't say that she tried to do something evil. He's using the word rawadatni, right? Oh, sorry, I didn't change yours. Okay. He's specifically saying that she seduced me. He's not saying that she tried to do something evil like she did, right? Her accusation was generic, right? Her accusation was not pinpointing what exactly was going on. Yusuf alayhi salam is clearly saying that she tries to seduce me, right? Because what did she say? He did an evil act, right? She didn't say rape, right? But Yusuf alayhi salam is saying exactly what happened, right? Acha. What scholars say is that there could have been a number of reasons for this. Right? First, nothing has actually happened. Nothing has happened. If she said something had happened, then she would also be in trouble in front of her husband. You know? So she doesn't actually accuse Yusuf alayhi salam of committing a crime. She simply accuses Yusuf alayhi salam wanting to commit a crime. So what scholars say is that it is the methodology of the people of Zulm to accuse others of injustice, right? To accuse the other person of injustice. In our day and age, we call it gaslighting also, don't we? Immediately blame the other. Immediately put them in a defensive kind of a situation. You are the one who has caused all the problem, but you are like, no, but it's actually you, it's actually her, it's actually him. About anything, you can think of any situation that you want, right? So this is a standard tactic, accusing others of doing evil. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually said that one of the worst possible things that you can do is what? To accuse an innocent person of a crime. To accuse an innocent person is something to be taken very, very seriously, right? And this is one of the problems of committing sins, you see. Because to save your own skin in this dunya, you would do anything. You would do anything. Come back to either yourself or your children. A lot of time, she made me do it, he made me do it, I wouldn't do it otherwise. I was with, and we try to justify that, particularly about our kids as well. No. She's very cool, but that friend of hers, bad influence. We're always trying to do that, right? Okay. So we've already talked about the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam getting into more and more things, making up excuses, coming up with lies because they have to justify themselves. Ji.
So if you rewind slightly, you said that she didn't specify the crime or the charge previously because they hadn't committed any.
She didn't specify. I'm just going to repeat myself so that she didn't accuse him of rape. She said he tried to do some evil.
Why not? Because when you said that had something actually happened, the wife could also be in trouble with the husband. But then when she's saying evil, that means rape, and that's not consensual. So it's rape, and why she?
No, she is just generally saying he tried to take advantage of me or he tried to do some evil. She does not specify. Yusuf alayhi salam is specifically saying that she tried to seduce me. Yusuf alayhi salam is making it very specific that she tried to seduce me because he's not keeping quiet. He's defending himself immediately. He's not letting this go, right? That is the important point to see. She makes up a story, right, from the top of her head. And she had that presence of mind, even in a situation of being caught with another man in her bedroom, right? So she says it is his, he tried to do some evil. Yusuf alayhi salam said she didn't try to do some evil, she tried to seduce me specifically. I don't want to use the word, but he said that that's what she tried to do. You know what, right? The exact thing. Okay. Why is that confusing you?
No, because he said that if she would have said he tried to seduce me, then the wife would have also gotten in trouble with her.
What scholars say is that had she said rape, had she said rape, she was not, she wanted to save face in front of her husband, right? Okay. So she did not specify the crime, she specified only that he tried to do some kind of evil.
Oh, so you have to look at from a conservative mind.
Yeah. Okay. This was generally when it comes to these kind of situations, everybody is conservative, no matter how open a society is. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute, inshallah. Right. So now Yusuf alayhi salam could have been chivalrous and taken the blame for himself. A possibility, that she's the mistress and all, and it's going to be scandalous and whatever. But he didn't do that, right? He absolutely didn't do that. Because it is a fact that when it comes to your honor in a position like this, you should defend yourself. There's no such thing as taking it lying down. You should defend yourself. There's no honor in not defending yourself in a situation like this, right? So Yusuf alayhi salam is saying that she was the one who attempted to seduce me, right? Now, later on in the story, we are going to see that Yusuf alayhi salam will be accused of another crime when the brother comes, right? And at that point, he's going to remain silent. And what scholars say is that the reason being that in this particular situation, who is Yusuf alayhi salam at this point? A slave. He is in a position of dishonor, so to speak. But when he is in a position of power, he doesn't feel the need to explain anything or anything, because you see, when you have an upper hand, you're in a completely different zone. And when you have the lower hand, you're in a completely different zone. Right? So what scholars say is that in our specific situation, again, this is a very extreme situation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us and our homes from ever experiencing anything like this, whether it's us or whether it's people in our homes or whether they're people who are working in our homes. But particularly if we have people working in our homes, we need to be very, very sensitive to the fact that we blame or accuse without having 100% evidence, right? Because when a person is in a lower position than you, right, then why are you putting them in that kind of a defensive place? It's a mean thing to do. It's a horrible thing to do, because what can they do? You know, and for them, saving face and honor is much more important than perhaps it is for you, right? So that's also a little side point that we need to keep in mind, right? So yeah, you can at certain points defend your honor, and at certain points you will see later he didn't. Right? Yeah, he didn't feel the need, right? So the qalb speaks up in its own defense and says that it was the nafs that was the seducer. The mind, in its characteristic manner, wants evidence, is demanding is demanding evidence, right? So one of the cohorts of the nafs, yeah, and a witness from her family, right? Was shahida shahidum min ahliha. It's a huge household, so maybe there are other people as well, and it specifically says a witness from her family, ahliha, someone, maybe some relative or whatever. So the witness says that if his shirt was ripped from the front, then she is true and he's a liar. So he's saying, let's just sort this out over here by looking at the evidence of this shirt happening, right? So the witness over here is the sign of conscience. Let's put it this way. That inner ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given all of us to guard against evil, actually, right? That is why we have a conscience. Thus a conscience speaks up and offers evidence, right? Then in ayah number 27, he goes on to say the shahid, the witness, and if his shirt was ripped from behind, then she is telling a lie and he's truthful. Now what scholars say is that please understand one interesting thing over here. There was actually no witness in the room. Shahid actually means somebody who has seen something, somebody who's witnessed something. What does witness mean? Who was in the room? Yusuf alayhi salam, the wife, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So actually the shahid is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works in this world with asbab, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling this person who is saying, who comes later. Because now there are 4 people in the room, right? Now there is Yusuf alayhi salam, the wife, the husband, and this one relative who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling shahid. So his shahada has got nothing to do with being an eyewitness or anything. All he's saying is, let's have a look at what evidence we have around us. So the real shahid is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, right? Not this person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling shahid. Okay. And then what happens is that they look at the shirt, don't they? And where is it ripped from? From behind, right? Okay. The other thing is that there is a lot of circumstantial evidence which is in favor of Yusuf alayhi salam, right? Ji. Mhm. No, not why. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watches over everything. I mean it in that context. What the scholars say is that the third in the room, the other person in the room would be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of not his presence now. We know that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ilm and all, he knew what was going on, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shahid over everything at all given points in time, basically, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, what is happening where, in any closed room, any closed door, what is going on under the sea or above in the mountains or whatever, right?
We can say that Allah Ta'ala has made this person a sabab in helping Hazrat Yusuf.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That he is the one who's pointing out that, that is the reason, if you look at this interpretation of him being the conscience. So you see, look at what evidence is around. The shirt is an absolutely 100% clear evidence that it is torn from the back. So that means she has grabbed him from the back. Someone else, the shahid, that who's a person of her family, comes afterwards. First, there are these 2, then the husband, then this 4th one is who's saying, let's see what's going on. Because obviously he kind of figured out what's going on. Or perhaps they even had a dialogue. But we talked about that before, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give us such details in the Quran. But obviously there must have been some dialogue between, they wouldn't have been standing quiet, because she is accusing that Yusuf alayhi salam is saying, it was her. And then he says, to resolve this, he said, she said situation, let's look at the evidence. So this Shahid says that, who is a family member of the wife, right? Her name comes as Zulekha in certain narrations, not hadith, but other narration. So what scholars say is that certain circumstantial evidence was also going in favor of Yusuf alayhi salam. Shirt, yes, absolutely. He's a slave. So how, in those days it was almost impossible for a slave to take this kind of liberty, right? The second one is that he is going through the door first. Yeah. The third is that this woman is unusually, really decked out, kind of. The fourth is that his character is already very well known in the household, right? He's been in this household since he was a young boy, right? And it's been many years. And there are so many people who are interacting with him, right? And they know his, having a impeccable character is also something worth vying for, really, right? So his character is known, and he accuses her of a specific crime, and she is very generic in her and general in her accusation, right? And even if this other evidence was not there, just the fact that the shirt was torn from the back is enough to say that Yusuf alayhi salam is innocent and she is the one who did the seduction, right? So when her husband saw his shirt ripped from behind, he said, now this is interesting, because remember, that's why we talked about that, what would our reaction be when we are in an extreme situation? All he said was, this is certainly your trickery, O women. Great is the trickery of you women indeed. Kaydikunna inna kaydakunna azim. That's it, right? And to top it off, he says in ayah number 29, yeah, to Yusuf alayhi salam, oh Yusuf, ignore this matter. Chalo, chalo, let it be, right? And you, oh woman, seek forgiveness for your sin, for you were guilty in fact. Now imagine his tone, how he's saying this. Let it be. It's okay. Leave it, right? This is weird reaction. He's not angry. He's not even angry at Yusuf alayhi salam, right? That, whatever. And with the wife, he's like almost resigned. Yeah. So what scholars say is that there are several things. If you look at the scenario, and just by these two ayats, you can get a clear idea of what kind of society and what kind of environment these guys were living in. Perhaps this was not something shocking at all. Perhaps this was something which was going on in households big time. And everybody seemed to be okay with it, right? You see, when individuals get corrupt and morals are thrown out of the window, then that effect is of the environment, it's like a domino thing, right? And it's also one thing affects the other thing affects the other, right? So they're living in a kind of a social system where a woman, a wife, having an affair is not such a big deal, right? It really isn't. It seems like it, right? And that he's used to that. And and also he's trying to protect his reputation more than anything else. Because imagine his social standing. He's a minister. He's, he's part of the royalty, so to speak, because he's moving around in those circles, right? So he's not stupid, that's for sure. Because actually some people said, some of the Mufassirun have tried to say that perhaps he was a little imbecile. No, he wasn't. He was a minister of finance. So he was definitely not soft in the head, right? And he had a very, very high social position, right? So he must have been an intelligent person as well, right? But he is kind of almost complacent in his attitude about what the wife had done. It's like just a slap on the wrist, isn't it? Say sorry, something like that. When we reprimand somebody who's under us, right, there are two ways of doing it. One is that if the crime is so severe, you're going to have a severe consequence for it, right? And the other is let it be, because it's not worth it, right? So it doesn't matter if a plate is broken. It's one of those things. It's okay. Never mind. Yeah. Isn't that our mindset? If something which we feel is so severe, our reaction to that is very severe as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Could it be possible that the husband was also talking to his wife in such a manner because maybe she was known to have this kind of a thing with not all the employees or slaves, but like she did something previously a few times and he knew, yes.
Wallahu alam. No scholar has commented on that she did something like this, but scholars have most certainly commented on the fact that the entire society was based on that. Flirtation and, like in Urdu we say, aankh matakka. Like that kind of attitude, if people are flirting with each other type of thing. And are we surprised to hear that?
No, not really.
It's not surprising at all because unfortunately, we are living in times like that.
He's actually a very smart man because he was the man who knew that Yusuf had something special about him.
Yeah,
His first time.
he's a smart man because he knew that Yusuf alayhi salam had something special. I'm repeating so that these guys can hear as well. Yeah.
So now I feel that the society has gone down, and I think he's coming from the fact if you're going to do it, just make sure you don't get caught.
Absolutely. That is exactly what scholars are saying is that if you do it, the important thing is not whether you do it or not. The important thing is don't get caught.
He doesn't want to look like
He doesn't want to lose his reputation. That's the bottom line for him, right?
That's his honor.
Huh? Yeah, that's his honor, right? But he does say that what you have done, you are guilty, right? What you have done is not good, right? And do istighfar, although they were not believers. Yusuf alayhi salam is the believer over here, right? So another point that scholars bring is that he knows that infidelity is a sin, despite the fact that he's not a believer, right? In all societies, premarital whatever is given free hand. We see that here as well, right? Free hand. Extramarital, a little bit of at least, yeah. So in a lot of religions and all, you can't marry more than once also, yeah. So you can engage in premarital affair, whatever you want to call it, completely permissible and not even considered a sin at all, right? Opposites and gender, same gender, whatever, right? In fact, it has come to the fact that if anybody openly talks about same gender issues, right? So you're backward and a person with negative stereotypes, etc. It's true. Now, just a little side point over here. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had kept that hum in his prophet, it is 100% possible that if a person feels attraction for the same gender, they have that hum in them. And they're not lying, they're not putting it on. They do have that attraction. But what did Yusuf alayhi salam do? Do you act upon that? They're two different things. Having attraction towards someone and acting upon it are two different things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we talked about that before, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of sexuality. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has specifically told us, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has specifically told us one way of expressing that sexuality, which is within the bounds of a marriage. That's it. So anything outside the bounds of a marriage is not permissible. Whether it is before nikah, these days, unfortunately, people don't even consider that a problem. There are people who are living together in Pakistan. They're fine with it. Yeah. Why is that shocking? That's happening all around us. Yeah, big time. Right? It's not considered to be a problem. Right? And when same-sex relationships are not considered to be a problem, then what do we talk about heterosexual? So in our Sharia, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law, which Allah has given us, expression of sexuality is permissible within the bounds of a nikah. Within the bounds of a nikah. No other configuration falls into this permissibility. Simple as that. Yeah. So whether you're not married or whether you are divorced or whatever other life situation you have, you will not be, you will be sinful if you act upon that attraction. And is the attraction there? Yes. That is why it's such a big test. So for that person who has tendencies or attractions towards the same sex, imagine the amount of ajr they are going to get when they don't act upon it. Right? Imagine, we talked about temptations yesterday as well, right? Imagine is Fatma here? Yeah, Fatma was the one who is drawn towards alcohol, right? I'm not. So if she's drawn towards alcohol and she's not drinking it, imagine her ajr is not the same as mine. So if I'm not even interested in girls, alhamdulillah, I'm sleeping happy. Zero ajr, right? Is somebody who is. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and save us to overcome these kind of temptations. And they don't act upon it. And they try their level best to stay within the boundaries of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. Their ajr is a lot more than, say, a heterosexual person. Okay? G, you had a question?
Some people classify or say that it is illness. So is that right? Say that it is illness.
I can't comment on that. Somebody is asking that some people classify homosexuality as being an illness. Wallahu alam. I don't know. I can't comment on that. It most certainly is a very strong attraction to the opposite, to the same sex. That's what it is. Now, whether you classify that as an illness or whatever, wallahu alam. If you're acting upon it, and you are saying, just like if you are attracted to what's your name, sweetie? Aisha, are you married? No. So Aisha, you're not married, you're attracted to somebody, a man, right? A boy, somebody, and you are going out with him and you are, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that, you are kind of going all the way, right? It's the same thing, isn't it? You have an illness. You are unable to control your temptation. If you want to classify that as an illness, then yes, perhaps that's an illness. We have temptations. It's exactly the same thing, actually. That if you are unable to control yourself, then that's problematic. And that is, you have to stop at that thought thing. That's the reason we discussed that, and then, not act upon it. Yes.
There, like an attraction for a woman having an attraction for a man, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that it is there. But a man having an attraction for a man, do you think that's there, or is what she's saying that mental illness that is there? Yeah.
The question is that if the same sex attraction has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that, or is it a deviation? There are two explanations for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not created attraction of the same sex for each other. Let's have that very clear. It is not what Allah has kept in our fitrah, right? It is not in our fitrah. So just in case you got, Jazakallah for asking that, in case somebody feels that this is something which is okay to have, and no, it's not. It is not in our fitrah. And the reason we know that it is not in our fitrah is because there's a whole story of Lut alayhi salam in the Quran where Allah talks about a deviation of that nation, which was a sexual perversion. So it is a perverted thing. So if you want to call that a disease, you can call that a disease if you want. But my point was, right, Farheen, that it is not in our fitrah, but the fact that we get attracted could be valid completely. Right? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not put that in anyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not put us the gene of lying, for example. You're looking at a situation which is a 100% absolute sin without any mincing words. That's what it is, right? It is not in our fitrah to be crooked and evil and to gossip and to lie and to cheat and to murder. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that a child who's born is born on pure fitrah. And then later on, influences make them the way they become. So what the reason, and the reason we are having such an open discussion is because the kind of influences we have around us are actually pushing us to do stuff which is not really natural to us. Infidelity, even in a heterosexual marriage, is not something which is natural to human beings, right? It's not. And it's not ingrained in our fitrah to be unfaithful, to be unjust, right? And when everybody around you, when society gets corrupt and we let our ego fly away with shaitan, then this is what happens. That morality goes out of the window, whether it is heterosexual morality or homosexual morality. And everything becomes experimental also. So somebody who's not really even attracted is going to say, okay, let me try it out. And we see that happening around us, right? Because it is just completely going out of the window totally. Right? Astaghfirullah, there are situations where there are several partners together. No, don't say, oh God, that's the reality. Ji, you have a question? Yeah, media has got a lot to do with all of this. Bilkul, absolutely. So don't you feel that even a few decades back, that's how degradation happens. Have any of you watched this show called Friends?
Yes.
Did you like it? Who said yeah? That was sure shot zina in front of you. Why do we not get so scandalized by zina? I'm not saying don't get scandalized by homosexuality, but why are we so okay with zina? That is pure zina. People are living, we were desensitized about zina way before we were desensitized about homosexuality. So it's always one step and then another step and then another step. We are all guilty of watching those movies or just one bad scene. Yeah. And we are saying, oh no, it's not for the kids. So it's okay for you, right? There's this very famous story that that there was this mom who didn't want her kids. They were grown-up children, so she couldn't stop them, kind of thing. Didn't want her kids to go to watch a certain movie because it had some, and the children gave that excuse, little bit of, not a lot. So when they came back, they could smell something, cooking in the kitchen and all. And she said, I've made brownies for you. So they said, okay, great. So they sit down and have brownies. And he said, oh, by the way, I just put 1 teaspoon of dog shit in it. And they were like, whoa, it was just 1 teaspoon, right? So every time you and I try to sit on a moral high horse, we should think about what all do we allow ourselves to be okay with. And when we become okay with that, then you go down one step, then you go down another step, and then you go down, and there's no end to it. This downward spiral, there's no end to it. It's total abyss, and that is how Shaitan works. Be okay with this. Now let's talk about this. Be okay with that. Then you go down more. So talking about zina or impermissible relationships, that has been going on for at least 25, 50 years. The homosexuality bit has come in recently. And why are we surprised that it has? Because we were so complacent and accepting and pretty cool with watching whatever. That is, I don't know what shows are on these days, but back in the day, Friends used to be very popular. So that is why I kind of talked about it. Everybody was having an affair with everybody else. That's what it was, right? G.
They're actually recreating the old shows that we had, and they're adding homosexuality in that.
Okay.
And then we did like,
And it's not surprising, is it?
we watched this when we were young. So
Okay, so they're adding, yeah, they're adding an element of homosexuality to it. But why are you surprised? Because you and I are the ones who gave the green light to all the other stuff. We truly did, and we still do. And let's not just talk about shows which are from other parts of the world. Shows in our part of the world.
yes,
Movies in our part of the world have become like all kinds of stuff is completely acceptable. Totally fine. And anybody who says anything against it is the one who is backward and Mulani or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Not tolerant. Yeah. Not tolerant. Yeah. Not tolerant. Although, do you know the meaning of the word tolerance? Tolerance is a very funny word. If you say that I tolerate you, that means, this is something so, but I put up with it. That's what tolerance actually means. Yeah. So our tolerance levels have gone from, yeah, let's not talk about it. Don't get me started on this. Yeah. Because this is very, very, this thing happening, right? So this poor guy is probably living, and he's part of that system. So he's living in that society where, things just happen. It's okay, right? How many times do you hear mullanas and mullanis screaming, have segregation, have a social setup where in a social situation, when you talk about segregation, people are like that, right? You say something like that, that, it didn't happen at the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So then why don't you sit on a camel? What are you daft? Zero IQ. What is the matter? So when you say segregation, so then why do you go to a restaurant to eat? That is a public space. We are talking about a social situation. It would be great if there are restaurants where you have men and women separately, but you get and understand the concept of segregation. It talks about a pub, your social, like for example, over here, we are sitting over here, we're all girls, right? Okay. So if Fareen is kind enough and she invites us to a party after Eid, right? So we all come decked out, we take off our whatever it is that yeah, Alhamdulillah. But if she invites everybody else as well, bring your Janu and I'll invite my friend. What? You understand? Social segregation is extremely important. And why is it extremely important? Because there's a huge fitna. There's a huge fitna. And if those of you who think that this is not it, and this is just the working of a dirty mind, then you're living God knows where, under a rock or something. That fitna is very much there. That fitna is a very strong fitna. And Allah has talked about that in this surah so blatantly, so openly, that fitna is so much there. Yeah. So before we go on with ayah number 30, yeah, let's just talk about how should we deal or battle these temptations, right? We've been talking about it a little bit here and there, but we must know that the temptations and sins are part and parcel of this worldly life. Yeah. And sins appear attractive for a reason, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran that man has been created weak. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us in this dunya to test us. This is one big test. We have not been sent in this world to live a good life. We have been sent in this world to die a good death. That is why we have been sent in this dunya. This dunya is not a place of relaxation, of party time, for a believer, right? If you don't believe in that, let's just go home. Then none of this makes sense at all, right? I'm talking about a believer who's concerned and worried about something so precious as faith and iman and taqwa and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's closeness, etc. It's only a believer who's concerned about that, right? So how we deal and we overcome or try to overcome the tests of this life are the very battlefield of our soul. That is where our nafs, we are battling with our nafs. And if we are not battling with our nafs at all, then what the situation that you see, we were talking about the downward spiral, then that is where you end up. That everything goes, everything is okay. Nothing is a problem, right? Because you have completely given yourself up to shaitan. Chalo, do whatever, doesn't matter. And like any other battlefield, we need to have tools and learn how to deal with it, right? So what we learn a lot from Surah Yusuf and from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, from the Quran, that there are certain mechanisms, certain tools that Allah has given us to battle with this nafs of ours, right? The first one, ta'awwuz. Remember? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about that the first thing that Yusuf alayhi salam did was seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also said in in this ayat that, and if you are tempted by shaitan, then seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, he alone is the all-hearing and all-knowing, right? So ta'awwuz, immediately, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You're tempted by something, that is the first thing. The second thing, never underestimate the power of dua. You feel, Fatma is lying and thinking about wine, yeah? Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are so many beautiful, beautiful duas that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us, right? Ya muqallib al-qulubi thabbit qalbi ala deenik. O turner of hearts. The qalb turns. It flips over. That is why it's called qalb. It is prone to flipping over. Sometimes we say, na, you ask for a rational reason, what do we say? Dil chahta hai. Because my heart wants it. It is translating everything of Urdu into English is like a big thing for me, right? But don't we say that about so many things? If you even want to say to yourself, why did I do that? Dil chahta hai, right? So that dil needs to be firm on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commandments, on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen. So this is a beautiful, beautiful dua. All of you have good dua books, right?
Yeah.
Or apps or something. Alhamdulillah. Okay. This is also another beautiful dua. Let me change for you as well. Allahumma rahmataka arju fala takilni ila nafsi tarfata ayn. Yeah. Wa aslih fi sha'ni kullah la ilaha illa ant. Yani, oh Allah, I hope for your mercy. And this is so beautiful that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying that pray to Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala that don't leave me myself to myself. Don't leave me to my nafs, the lower nafs, even for a blink of an eye. Because the lower nafs is so shaitan that he's going to, literally usurp me away from here to there, God knows where. And sometimes that happens, right? That's why I talk about that a lot, that when you're surfing the net, I do a lot of work online, right? So, sometimes some suggestion comes, or you're on YouTube, you see like a suggestion of some ad or something or whatever, even if it's a cooking show, for example. Now it's time for Taraweeh, you're going to sit and watch a cooking show. You know what I mean, right? That kind of thing. So if you let yourself to your ego, your nafse ammara, and don't rein it in, it'll take you from 0 to 200 in 5 seconds. Like that Ferrari that we were talking about. And the same kind of ayat with a slightly different wording. This is also beautiful. Ya hayyu ya qayyumu bi rahmatika astaghith. O ever living, O self-subsisting and supporter of all, your mercy I seek, by your mercy I seek assistance. Aslih li sha'ni kullah. Rectify for me all of my affairs. Yani do islah of all of my affairs. وَلَا تَكِلْنِي إِلَى نَفْسِي طَرَفَةَ عَيْنٍ. And don't leave me to my nafs, even for the blink of an eye. These du'as are beautiful, and we really must make an effort to do these du'as a lot these days, inshallah, and also otherwise also, because these help, inshallah, in dealing with temptations, because you're saying to Allah, na, I want to be with you constantly, and don't leave me to myself. Because myself, my ego is going to be up to nothing good, really. Then tahajjud. And alhamdulillah, Ramadan is a training ground for getting sorted out with tahajjud, right? Because even if, obviously you need to sleep, whatever kind of schedule, but you can even get up like literally 10 minutes before Sahri time. Literally. Do your wudu, 2 rakat. You can start off with, a lot of people, what they do is that they do their witr later on. That's whatever Allah gives you tawfiq for. And please understand that 1/3 of the night when it passes, and this is not just for Ramadan, this is every day, every night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends to the lowest heaven. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, is there anyone who wants forgiveness? Is there anyone who, you want forgiveness? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam always used to say that, when everybody else is sleeping, the one who fears God and he wants the akhirah, who loves God, is the one who's up. Right? So tahajjud is something you can battle your temptation with. Really. Ask Allah subhanahu. There's one scholar who said that if you want something really desperately and you're not getting up for tahajjud, then you don't really want it that desperately. Right? So anything. And to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me that strength. My willpower is 0. My willpower is 0. I can't do. Yusuf alayhi salam couldn't do it without you. So who am I? Which category do I fall under? So let's, inshallah, at least make an effort. And this is a blessing and mercy of Allah if one gets the tawfiq to get up for tahajjud. And if Allah, sorry.
I just remember my mom, she's not with us anymore.
Mhm.
No, they have a big person. I was like teenage.
Yeah.
She would come and she would say to me that if you want anything, do your tahajjud. And she would say in a very child friendly way, she would say, rush come up.
Yeah.
My dua would just go straight.
What a lovely way to explain it. Sheba is saying that her mother, who's passed away, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give her the highest levels of Jannah. She used to say that do get up for tahajjud because us waqt rush kam hota hai, and your dua is going to go straight up, and the dua just, and there's, I think is it a hadith or a saying? I don't remember that, dua at tahajjud is like that arrow, doesn't miss the mark, right? That's what it is. Yeah. And please, pretty please, don't post it on social media. I mean, that's another fitna. It's better to just sleep then. Don't pray tahajjud then. There was once a scholar, I think it was Imam Malik, I'm not sure who, one of the great scholars. They used to have their places where their students will be staying with them and all. So he got up for tahajjud and another student got up for tahajjud and other people were sleeping. So the student says to the teacher that, how unfortunate. Look at them, they're sleeping at tahajjud. He said, you go to sleep as well. You understand that? If your tahajjud is going to be a source of arrogance, a source of showing off, then please just sleep. Forget it. You don't even have the arrow in your hand. You get it. That's what it's a disease these days. To show off your spirituality. What is that? Then it's not real spirituality at all. It's something else. You're pretending. Shaitan is really got you. You are, this much Tarawih I did and this was the posting picture. Why? So tahajjud is between you and Allah. Why would you want anybody to interfere between you and your God? That's stupidity. If Allah has given you this tawfiq, don't blow it. It's a special favor of God that He gives you that tawfiq to stand up in the middle of the night. And Allah's beautiful favor and mercy is that, the witr salah, even if you do it with Isha, that's part of tahajjud. That's Qiyamul Layl, right? So Alhamdulillah, whatever tawfiq you have, 2 rakats, 4 rakats, 8, whatever, it's up to you. That's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want to stand all night and pray, Alhamdulillah, but don't miss your Fajr. Yeah, because this is nafil. One ji.
If I take Ravi with Jamaat and if someone told me I don't pay my bills and pay the full coverage and someone told me agar Jamaat ho rahi hai then you have to pay your bills with the Jamaat. So Quran is sitting on the side everyone's paying, right?
Janu, that's a fixed question, and I will get back to you because there are several opinions on this. The question was that if she is praying Taraweeh with Jamaat, and then she doesn't do her witr with the Jamaat, and she does it later on, so is it okay or not? Yeah, I'll get back to you on this one because there are several opinions, and I'm simply going to send you the several opinions. Don't ask me fixed questions. Yeah, there are different things because there are opinions on that, Ji. Yeah, of course. As long as it's not tahajjud time, you want to have sehri first and then you want to pray, alhamdulillah. It has to be before Fajr. Yeah, 5 minutes before Fajr. But imagine the opportunity that you're given. You just want to go, alhamdulillah, so think woman, yeah. If you're given that opportunity, so don't freight train, yeah. Well, but you never know. Even the freight train, Allah accepts. So please don't think that I'm being judgmental over here, but just saying, this is not I'm not a scholar, so I can't give like a 50 opinion. But yes, before the Fajr, any time is tahajjud time, right? Then zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us, keep your tongues moist with the zikr of Allah, right? The remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because anytime you have a dodgy thought and you think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is watching me, yeah? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. So possibility is that there's some kind of break is going to happen, isn't it? And if you keep yourself involved in the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly, as a matter of habit, right? It's said about Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh. No, was it Imam Shafi'i or Imam Abu Hanifa? I forget. One of these great scholars, that he was walking with a student of his, and then he stopped, and then because you see, those days students were like that. They would notice each and every little thing. That's how you learn, right? So he stopped and he had a paper and a pen or pencil or something. And he wrote something down and he put it in his and then started going. So he asked the Sheikh, like, what did you just do? He said, actually, I thought of something important and it was interfering with my zikr. So I thought I'd better write it down and then, go for. Imagine, alhamdulillah. So people of zikr are true believers, really. because Allah is on your mind constantly. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that do zikr of Allah so much that people think you're crazy, right? Where people think you're mad. And these little remembrances that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, right? You look at something beautiful or something good happens, Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah, right? These are little things, but if we focus on that even for seconds, that's zikr of Allah, that reminds you, right? One thing which I find very cool being a woman, that if you are out in public, right, and you are in full Islamic garb, I like to call it shebang, that is your zikr, without saying a word. Without saying a word. That is your zikr, that is your da'wah. Both of that put together, right? So zikrullah is something. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has clearly taught us du'as of morning and evening, right? Of, when you open the fast, right? Absolutely everything that a human being can do from the time you get out of bed till the time you go to sleep, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has a dua for it. It is so amazing. And they are not difficult du'as. It's just something to get used to. When you look in the mirror, go to the toilet, come out of the toilet, drink, eat, sleep, whatever, right? There's a dua before you have relationships, like sexual relationships with your husband. There's a dua for that. Because can you imagine that you get ajr for it? Which religion is going to teach you that? Which Allah, whose God is so merciful that something that you totally enjoy and you think that it's so cool, you get ajr for it? Why? Because you're not doing it impermissibly. You're doing it in the halal manner, right? Yeah, there are various ahadiths that are related to that. Some of the ahadiths which talks about husband and wife relationships and all are so specific and explicit that people might think that, oh my God, what is this? It's so explicit, and it's important to be explicit because we need to learn. Otherwise, how are we going to learn it, right? So please, and also when you talk about zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us so much, that alhamdulillah, if we manage to do that, alhamdulillah, right? So don't go for dodgy, non-evidence situations like, okay, so if I stand under the tree and it's like full moon, and if I do Surah Baqarah 500 times, that's mumbo jumbo. That's not even humanly possible. So just stick to stuff that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us, and just sticking to that is a big deal, right? So let's make ourselves firm and be qayyim on something which we are 100% sure of, that it is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The other thing, saum, fasting, yeah, and nikah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised some young men, right? I'm just going back and forth so that I can tell you the exact hadith about this. Oh, okay. Oh, young men, whoever among you, and this could be for young women as well, right? Whoever among you cannot afford it, marriage, or for some reason you're not married yet, whatever, let them fast, for it would be a shield for him, right? And you do have passions. And when you're young, you do have passions, that's a fact. And fasting kind of is a shield, right? And it kind of subdues your nafs. It's a battlefield, like I said, and you battle with your nafs that way. And then other things that we learn, which are, again, very, very useful. Are we there? Yeah. What scholars tell us is muraqabah, self-assessment, right? Think about the fact, self-vigilance. Omar radiallahu ta'ala said, take yourself into account before you are taken into account. Weigh your own deeds. And what scholars say is that literally, being a mindful Muslim, right? Literally every night, literally see, what did I do today? Where did I falter? Right? This is the time, this is like self-vigilance. It's important. While you are doing your zikr, you can do that, right? Where did I falter? What is it that I could have done and I didn't do? Having these very practical, what are the possible solutions for it, right? And it's not a bad idea, without discussing too much, to have like-minded friends and maybe get an idea from them that, I'm struggling with such and such. Did you face that? And if you did, then what was, are there some tips to share? And that's why I said like-minded friends. Your 550 friends or 2,000 friends on Facebook are not like-minded friends. This is not a discussion to have on social media. This is a very personal thing. Yes, most certainly, if there are certain tips without being very personal about it and you want to share it for the benefit of others, alhamdulillah. But vigilance is important, right? Vigilance is important. Then, what else do we have here? Yeah, thinking positive. If you start off with saying, no, I can't do it. I have no, for example, some people who use very bad language, they say, what can I do? I have no filter, right? You're just letting yourself go from the word go, not even thinking, yes, I can do it. Yes, inshallah, I can do it, right? So this is something which is talked about a lot these days as well, that whatever we think actually comes into action eventually, right? And then this absolute barrage of media that we have, we need to be very careful about how we are using that, what we are consuming, because that becomes our thoughts and our feelings, and we get emotionally attached to that as well, right? And then think about death often. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, remember the destroyer of pleasures, which is death. End of the day, nobody is getting out of here alive. That is a fact. Even if you live to be 200 years old, you're not getting out of here alive. You are going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in which state you go back, that is a choice that Allah has given us, right? When we are going to go back, we don't have a choice in that. How we are going to go back, in what state? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, right? Do not you die till you completely submit. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Don't you die. That's another dua that we need to make very, very seriously. Oh Allah, don't take me till you are pleased with me. Don't take my children till you are pleased with them. Don't take my family till you are pleased with them. Give me that molat, right? And help me get through with that, right? And the other thing is, and these are all tips. Some might work for you, some might not work for you. You might make your own list of stuff. But until and unless, the whole idea of these discussions is, until and unless we make an active effort, we will not be able to control our temptations. That's just the whole point. And then what scholars say is, seek halal. Have a halal life. Halal is not just food and drink halal. And even food and drink halal, with scientific progress, we know that there are certain foods which have chemical effects on our bodies. So anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made impermissible or haram for us, whether it is food, whether it is sexual preference, whether it is the way we, whether it's lying or whatever it is, or whether it's jealousy, we talked about jealousy before, all of that is part of haram, right? So, but, and also particularly food and drink. You can't say that, okay, so I'm going to have this burger. Again, me and Fatma are traveling. And she's very happy with the, struggling with the alcohol, and I'm struggling with the food. Right? Because the lady says, it looks absolutely fabulous. But she said, oh, sorry, you didn't order kosher or halal food. I said, oh, how could I forget that? But I didn't. And that's all that is available. And no, let's pretend that no vegetarian option. So both me and Fatma are in trouble now, because we have to battle our nafs. I can't say, no, koi baat nahi, Fatma. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and let's go for it. Yeah. Some people, I have heard people say that actually. Say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and eat it. You're not dying, for God's sakes. I mean, until and unless you're actually going to die without a morsel of haram, physically dying, that's it. That's the end of you, right? That is the only way that you can have haram. Having a few pangs on the plane doesn't mean that you're dying, right? Although it might, and then that is a battle, isn't it? That is, and now, alhamdulillah, when it comes to food and drink, for all of you young kids or people who are even studying abroad and all, there's basically very few places on the planet which don't offer halal food. Seriously, very few places. You find halal options everywhere, right?
My daughter is in the University of Toronto, and she told me before Ramadan, they sent an email out that please let us know all the children who are fasting. So they made 10 boxes for them to get. So I said, literally, you have no excuse not to fast.
Absolutely.
Make it easy.
Yeah.
Like if you had to prepare your own study in a dorm, that's difficult. But now they are so good.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Aisha is saying her daughter is studying in University of Toronto, And before Ramadan, they got an email saying that let us know who all Muslim students are fasting, and they made sehri boxes for them. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. So there are lots of, there are, Alhamdulillah, lots of facilities. Yes, there are many challenges, but there are many facilities as well. And whoever wants to stick to halal, sticks to halal, no matter what happens, right? So being on holiday or being at university is no excuse to like, Bismillah chalta hai type scene, yeah? And avoid that which does not benefit you. And this is something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stressed upon so much. A lot of times we get carried away with temptation because we get involved in stuff which has nothing to do with us, right? So everybody is talking about, say, I'm giving you a very simple example about a TV show. You know, Netflix is like a curse, I tell you, seriously. Seriously. Who all has Netflix, by the way? No, I'm not going to be judgmental. Don't tell me. No, I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you, right? But don't have Netflix. Let's put it this way. No, because it's such a huge temptation. Everything is a click away. If you're not going to have it, then at least it'll take some effort to get what you have to do to get Netflix.
Pay like a monthly amount.
You have to pay. You have to register or something. It probably takes some time. You need to have an account. It'll take some time, na? So all the friends or people are talking about certain show, right? And you're like dying. It's got nothing to do with you. Avoid it. Leave it alone. Not your concern, right? Not my circus, not my monkeys. We should actually be like that. And inshallah, that will save us from a lot of temptations. A lot of times what you can, and you know the people who do that, you know, because we've got a lot of stuff and apps on our phone, even social media and all. I know people who before Ramadan just delete them. Because if they're not going to be there, the click is not going to be there, right? That temptation is there. And the easier access you have to temptation, the possibility of getting into it is higher. Simple as that. So I always, for me, if the lemon tart, if it's sitting in front of me, I will eat it. That's a fact. I don't know what to do about that, but that happens. If it's not there, then, you know, who's going to make an effort to get in the car or ask somebody or get a delivery or whatever, you know, etc. And now, because Shaitan wants us to be involved in so many different things, haven't you noticed that everything has become so easy to access? Whether it's ordering food, whether it's getting anything online, you know, there's so many these, what are they called? OTT platforms. There's what? There's Netflix, there are others as well, right? Amazon, and also I'm sure there are more, right? And you have all kinds of things, degenerative stuff happening in most of them. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So why have an account then? Then why have an account? What do you watch on Netflix? Chalo, batao aaj.
Like I don't, but the children do.
What do they watch on Netflix?
I don't even know that, but my husband does. But you know, we put the lock for the younger one.
But are there any shows which you can actually watch on Netflix?
Yes, there are.
Which
Turkish program. But you know, it's just that but I tell you, the sin is just a click away. It's like the good and the bad.
Yeah, Sheba said it. She said the sin is just a click away. It's just a click away. So try to avoid that which doesn't benefit you to the best of your ability. There's no benefit in it, right? Entertainment can be a benefit. Alhamdulillah, that's not a problem. But finding clean entertainment. Sorry?
To watch this side. I mean, we have documentaries, but who's going to watch documentaries? You all want to watch some fun stuff. So it's very few, right?
Very, very few things. So the whole idea is that if you want to battle your temptation seriously, yeah, and only, like I said, only the person who feels that my iman is worth so much, then I need to jump into this battlefield. Only that person will do that. Otherwise, majority of us are just sitting on the sidelines. Whatever is happening is happening. Yeah. And there's some excuse or the other for something or the other, which we need to identify for ourselves, inshallah. And the other thing which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually said about every issue that we have, keep good company. One can't stress more on that. You are who your friends are, basically. You are. And also what scholars tell us is that in today's day and age, your own company is sometimes the company you are with the most. So what are you doing in that me time or in that alone time? because then it's you and your nafs. What are you watching on this screen? Only you knows and Allah knows, right? Who's going to, you're an adult. Who's going to go and check your browsing history? You may do that for your kids, but who's going to do that for you, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your browsing history. So even if you delete it, it's not deleted from your record until and unless Allah's mercy says that you have made tawbah and astaghfar over it. Then it is actually clearly deleted. Alhamdulillah. But keeping good company is so important. What we watch, that's our company. Netflix is our companion, right? Whatever YouTube or whatever. Does anybody even go to YouTube anymore? I don't know. That's it. But that is your companion, actually. That is also a companion. Whatever apps it is that you're using on your phone or whatever online, these are all companions. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us about company that, that the parable of a good friend and a bad friend is that of a seller of musk and a blacksmith. The seller of musk will give you some perfume, even if you don't buy it, for example, right? Or you will notice a good smell. So if you're sitting with people who are conscious of Allah, whose priority is also to, figure themselves out in terms of, okay, I need to fix myself, right? Positive thinkers, doers, right, etc. So what is the possibility of you not being that? Lower, na? And something will rub off on you. So a lot of times you feel that you have a lot of free time. So you're involved with people who are doing a lot of charity work or are involved with this cause or that cause. Alhamdulillah, that will give you an opportunity to be involved with them. So there's benefit that you will get out of it. Lot and less depending on how much you want to be involved. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, for the blacksmith, as for the blacksmith, he will burn your clothes or you will notice a bad smell, right? There's a class we take for teenagers, which is called perception. So we do this little activity there that, the glitter, no matter how you try it, it doesn't get away from you, right? So if you throw glitter, some of it comes on you, no matter how hard you try not to. So that is how your company is. It sticks. The characteristics, and it's a very old saying. It's not, you don't have to be religious to know that. Birds of a feather, right? You are who your friends are. So important. So those of you who are these young kids sitting over here, so if Amma is screaming and howling, like, I need to know who your friends are, there's a reason, because Amma is concerned about what company you are keeping, because it affects you, and vice versa. So that's also super, super important to see that who or where we are spending our time. What is our company? And in COVID times, a lot of times we were pretty much on our own. Yeah. Not too much socializing as such. So that is the reason. What was the company we were keeping for the past 2 years? This, now your phone and your thing. What was happening on that?
I think that helped the younger generation survive.
Yeah, help the younger generation survive. And unfortunately, we have become lazy moms. So for young kids, the babysitter is what? iPad or whatever, phone. That's the babysitter. And then how much vigilance are you going to have? Particularly when these days you all of you said that even in children's shows you have all kinds of material or a lot of content is so dodgy, right? That you don't know are you really seriously vigilant? If you're not vigilant about yourself, then how are you going to be vigilant about your children? So it's very easy to say that kids should not do that, kids should not do that. What about you? And it is a fact. Yes, what happens later on when children become adults, right? You may try your level best. And we have that example in this surah. Sons of Prophet, Yaqub alayhi salam. The possibility that he was a bad parent, is that there? No. But they turned out to be pretty sour for a period of time. Then alhamdulillah, with Allah's mercy, they turned back. But the fact is that sometimes you may try your level best and your kids will not be what, but at least you've done your bit to the best of your ability. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you, then what did you do? At least you will have some leg to stand on, right? Rather than not caring at all. They're going to be what they're going to be, so there's nothing to do. Well, it's 12 years old. You still have power over a 12-year-old, right? So important, what company you keep. I can't believe we already did these ayat. Okay. So now, no, but it is important, inshallah, from tomorrow, we're going to speed up, right? I go off tangents too much, right? So inshallah, we are going to start talking about ayah number 30. So we have come to the fact that this episode of this scenario of the seduction of Yusuf alayhi salam by the wife of Aziz, these ayat have dealt with that, right? And now, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to talk about the fact that how this incident actually did get out and gossip spread within society, and what the other women